So I am going to share the pictures of my experience in Washington, D.C. during the presidential summit. So it's usually 3 days right after your fellowship. Everyone from the different universities meets in Washington, D.C. That's how it used to be done. I don't know if it's still like that right now. Then it has different activities. There's Ignite Talk. There is a summit itself on day 2. Then the last day when we wind down, when there are things like exhibitions and things like that. But there's also time for sightseeing. I also managed to go to the Kenyan embassy in DC and also just visit a few historical places like the White House and other monuments. So these are the pictures, and I guess now we can begin on the video. Hey everyone, I know it's been a while since I made a video and uploaded it. I was just going through something personal that I cannot really share details about. Those who know me know what it is, and I really couldn't be able to post anything for the last couple of months. And also, as I post these specific videos, I have also decided that I'm going to reduce the number of long form videos I'm going to upload on the channel, because I think after almost 2 years of creating content, I'm not seeing the real benefit of creating so many videos and getting low views. I would rather do one long form content, long video once a month, and then just do short form videos. I think for me that would work better, because at the moment I'm just not really seeing the benefit of doing this in the format I've been doing it lately. If things change as I do the other format, maybe I will go back to doing long form content, but I really do want making videos to be worth my while and worth my time, because I do put so much time and effort into making videos, and as much as it really does benefit the people who watch this, I also want it to benefit me and to motivate me to continue creating videos. It's true, it's very discouraging to see very low views when you create content, and I know it's not because my content is boring. I know sometimes maybe it's very intense, or maybe the videos are also too long. So I do need to explore options to see what will work better for this channel. I'm not going to completely stop posting, because it's very, very important for me to continue doing this, because I really do want the information about fashion to be out there for people to learn, for this channel to be a resource. So I'm not going to stop creating content. The short form videos will also still be pretty much educational like this, maybe a few tips and tricks, things you will learn. But I will post another video this month, because this one was supposed to be last month anyway, so look out for that. With that, I do want to begin basically what I had promised a couple of weeks ago, and I hope you will enjoy. So I'm going to talk about my Mandela Washington Fellowship aftermath experience, basically what it's like to be a fellow, what happens after your fellowship, what experiences you have after the fellowship, and things like that. So I hope you will watch it to the end, and thank you so much for being here. All of the new subscribers, welcome. Everyone who has supported me from the very beginning and even joined on the way, thank you very much and very welcome to this episode. Let's begin. Hey, so I will just begin with what I thought about the experience of going to the US was like before I went there. So it was actually my very, very, very first time leaving the country. So I was definitely nervous, and the fact that I was going to be with people I didn't know personally for 6 weeks, in a country where one of my biggest fear was running out of money and being destitute. So I can assure you, if you're going for the fellowship, don't worry about that. Nothing will happen to you. I think I just like planning so much, so having so many things in someone else's control was very scary. And another thing that people really made me feel anxious about was their experiences with immigration, especially if you have a layover in Europe or something like that, and some of the bad experiences they've had in the airport in Europe because they think you're trying to flee your country and things like that. It wasn't good. I think by now, because the fellowship is so well known, maybe that has changed. Hopefully it has. Africans have been traveling so much more over the past couple of decades. So this really shouldn't be an issue, and I'm not saying that there are no people who actually take advantage of such opportunities to do something that is not legal, but I think it's just important to be kind to people. It doesn't matter if they're coming from countries that are not at the same level as your country. I think that's the best way to say it. Anyway, so those are some of the anxieties I had. I think I'm really grateful that I was not the only Kenyan going to Atlanta, so that was a plus. Despite the fact that we were in 2 different universities, it was helpful to be with another Kenyan all through the trip to Atlanta. And also the fact that as fellows in Clark, we actually did manage to find each other, because the beauty of the fellowship is that they try to connect us. They try to connect us way before we went for the fellowship. So you find people who you're in the same school with. So there are some fellows that I already started chatting with who were in my school. So we started bonding and connecting and looking forward to meeting each other. So that also helped ease anxieties, because you're going to the school knowing at least someone, even if you only met them online. So that also helped. And I can also tell you how organized IREX is so good, because they tell you so much detail, to the point of even the contact details of the people who will meet you at the airport, and the contact details of the people in charge of the institution. Unless you just don't read your emails, they give a lot of details. There's no way you would get lost at all. There is no way you wouldn't know where you're going. There's no way, even if you end up, let's say, missing your flight or something like that happens, there is a way they will sort you out. But it's just important. Read your emails. Make sure you have everything done, and please pack early. I'd already said pack your things early. Pack by week to travel. You've already started packing, putting your suitcases together. So the problem with last minute packing is that you panic, you will forget things, you become anxious, you end up trying to figure out other last minute things, especially if you are people who run a business. If you haven't put some systems in place that will help your business run while you're away, you will panic and you will forget things and you will make mistakes, and you can even forget your flight date. So it's very, very important. Another benefit, of course, as well, is that if you are all Kenyan fellows, there's a WhatsApp group that's usually formed before you travel. So that was also very, very beneficial. So anyway, that's what was going through my mind as I was going to the fellowship. So of course, once you land there, you learn about what fellows are doing. It takes time. You will introduce yourself so many times. It's annoying at first, but at the end, because of that many times, we started learning what everyone else was doing, and you actually don't forget, because you repeat what you're doing so many times that it's just, if you don't know what your other fellows are doing, it's impossible. But on the long term of all that also is that you can easily recommend a fellow, because you get to know someone for 6 weeks, you get to learn about their business for 6 weeks. You can easily even recommend other people to them. The other thing is, of course, sometimes things change over the years, so I will get more into that later. So that is what I expected while I was traveling. That was what was going through my mind. That was what was making me most anxious. Also sometimes just feeling if I was worthy of being picked for the fellowship, because sometimes you hear what other people are doing and like, am I equipped? But all that changes, which I will explain in this video. So let's continue to watch. I just wanted to start with that. So the other thing is other people's expectations. So there is the expectations. First of all, you're going to the US, and you know how people think about going to any Western country here. They think you've made it in life, you're rich. You know, what did you do that other people didn't do? Who do you know that helped you get into the fellowship? All that crosses people's mind. To make it very, very, very clear, there is no one who can get you into the fellowship. It is completely transparent. You get in through your own merit. So let's just make that very clear. Even if someone helps you write your application or coaches you in whatever, it's really not up to anyone or even them that you'll get the fellowship. Sometimes it helps to get those tips just to refine your application, but the truth is that it's not a guarantee. The competition of the fellowship is very high. That also tells you that there is a lot of talent on this continent. So you should never think you are not picked because you're not talented. It's because there is just a lot of talent, and sometimes they pick people for various reasons, and it's not because maybe they made more money than you or anything. We really don't know. It really also depends on who's marking, and I explained all that in previous videos. So of course people think you're rich, or another thing people think is that you will get money from the US. You don't get money. I'm so sorry if you think that going to the US is going to make you money. It doesn't make you money. You could create networks that will eventually help you, whether it is to get funding or partnerships or just build relationships to expand your business. Whatever it is, I'm talking from a business perspective. I don't know what happens to people in civic because they tend to raise funds for their organization. I don't think there is nobody who leaves the US with money. There is an opportunity to apply for a grant and the opportunities to apply for grants, but sometimes that's much later for some people. Some people, I don't think there's anyone who specifically goes for the fellowship and gets money immediately, but I guess it depends on how you do your networking, on getting at least funding later for future projects. So yeah, that should be very, very clear. So another thing is, I would advise any fellows going for the first time to really limit your spending, especially in the first week when you're in a new country and you're trying to figure out your budget, what you will need to spend on and things like that. Every institution has different expenses, and they'll cover some, they will not cover some, they'll give you money for some, they'll not give you money for some. So I don't know what it's like now in 2023, what they will do with the fellowship, but for us, the school we were in gave us a flat rate, and it's up to you to decide how you're going to spend the money. And then they also told us what they were providing. So of course, with inflation and everything that's happening in the world, it may have gone up, some of the amount, so I can't really tell you what the amount is, but it is pretty fair. It really depends on the kind of person you are, and of course you need to have your own personal money and just think ahead, plan ahead. So limit how you spend your money. Another thing I will tell you is, during the fellowship you could have a certain mindset of how you do things. You went there because you were already doing something very well in your own context, but the beauty of being in a classroom setting with other fellows and various American contacts is that you will find a new way to do things. One of the things that really stood out for me is going to companies such as Coca-Cola and CNN and IBM and UPS and learning how they've remained relevant and how they've had to change things and basically do business for the long haul. And some of those case studies were so good because you are actually there in the company, in the business, and you're learning from them, and you're seeing people running a business that was started by a founder who died decades ago. So it also makes you think about your business long term. It makes you think about your legacy and what you're leaving behind, and also makes you wonder if there are African companies that have that kind of a legacy, and if they are, why we don't know about them. So for me, it really inspired me to try to figure out why we don't tell stories about our businesses. It's like we have this culture where you just think if you tell people how you did business, people will steal your idea. I think it's important that we have pride in how much we have achieved as Africans, and share our stories and share our achievements and tell our stories. Yeah. So now I want to get into the positives and negatives. It will be in point form. I try to be as brief as possible, but I hope what I've just said has been helpful. And let's begin on the positives. Positives. Meeting other Africans was one of my biggest highlights, because if you don't know, it's very difficult for several African countries to travel to each other's countries. I don't know how best to say that sentence, but Nairobi, where I live, I do meet Africans from all over the continent. A lot of them could have come from overseas, so maybe they are more well off, but it's very, very rare that you meet people who've never traveled before. And it's also very weird to meet people who don't know much about my country, because when I'm in my country, I meet people because they knew about my country and they came to my country. So it was also interesting meeting Africans of where I did not even know where their countries were, and it was interesting learning about cultures and the diversity and what we all know about each other's countries and things like that. So my highlight was definitely meeting other Africans, spending time with them, thinking through our achievements, appreciating our countries, also highlighting things we could do better. So I really appreciated having the opportunity to meet other Africans. I had mentioned this earlier, the fellowship also really makes you think about what Africans are doing, African brands, our impact on the continent, what we can do better, what we can improve on, the longevity of our brands and our work and our legacy. So that one is also a very big highlight, because you're talking to each other, you're learning from each other. There are some countries on the continent that are doing it better, and the truth is Africans have African solutions. So sometimes some of the solutions given by the West do not work at all for the African continent, so it becomes very beneficial to just learn from each other, learn what works, what is not working, and even adapt it. Yeah. Learning new cultures was a big plus. One of the fun things I loved and learned about at least the East Africa region is that we have that united language, Swahili, which we take for granted, which we just like, we speak Swahili, until you learn that there are some regions in Africa where they do not have a unifying language. So for us East Africans, Swahili kind of unifies us. I'm not saying every East African speaks Swahili, but majority East Africans know Swahili, even if it's just a little bit of Swahili. So that was a very big highlight, just learning about those kind of cultural things and just different things, because we really shared a lot. Food, how we dress, clothing, colonial experiences is actually also a thing. So that was another huge highlight for me. One that really surprised me, because I think the point of view I had about my country for a long time before I left Kenya was that we are not doing very well, and I was just used to the negative news we get every day about how our resources are not being used the way we would like. But in the US, Kenya was shining. We were doing so well. Everyone had such positive things to say. The professors, we were on a lot of case studies that were so positive, especially about our mobile money and just other achievements and how well the internet is doing in Kenya, internet connection and connectivity. It was very interesting that people actually were aware of that. Maybe the schools did go a little bit extra in finding that information, but I really did appreciate it. Another thing is I met a lot of Kenyans while we were doing the site visits, and Kenyans are doing so well in the US. I was so proud. It was so nice to meet someone who knows home and asks you about home and things like that, and even inviting you to come eat at their house. So that was also another very big positive. Kenya is shining, guys. Another thing is that the fellowship does open opportunities for you. You might not necessarily benefit from the fellowship directly, but sometimes becoming a fellow is beneficial. So you could apply for other things, and the fact that you are a fellow could actually help elevate your status into getting some of these other opportunities. So there is a benefit for being a fellow. It does open opportunities. It really also depends on how you use that experience to elevate your career and elevate opportunities that come your way. It could be opportunities for funding. The truth is, a fellowship does have opportunities after the fellowship, so that you could apply for funding, apply for exchange programs, apply for other programs that are sponsored by the US government. So being a fellow is really beneficial. I think the only thing you can't apply for again is the Mandela Washington Fellowship, but you can apply for very many other things. And they are always sending emails. They're always trying to help us connect with each other. When you're a fellow, at least for the first year, you are going to meet people in the region and people from the continent in a conference. For us, we had our Kenyan fellows. I don't know if I should call it a conference, but maybe that's the best thing. And then we had an East African one. I think now it's changed a bit. I think now they just do the whole continent. I guess because the fellows are also fewer. I'm not 100% sure, but that's how it was for us. We have WhatsApp groups where we connect, share ideas, support each other, share achievements. We also have opportunities where we meet, various events, and support each other and things like that. So for me, those are the benefits that really come to mind right now. So I'm going to go into the negatives. The negatives are mainly two. They are probably the ones that affected majority people. So I'm just going to talk about the two. The first one, it really depends on the country you come from. There are some people who their governments didn't take it well that they attended the fellowship or were fellows, because they were viewed as a threat. They were viewed as people who were brainwashed by the American government to come and take over the government and to become spies and things like that. So some fellows really suffered the consequences of going for the yearly fellowship. So just keep that in mind. The fact that the fellowship program is still ongoing and people are still applying and going, it means that maybe some of those issues may have been resolved. But the truth is that some people who really did suffer, and it affected them a lot. It even affected being able to continue doing their work. So just keep that in mind. The other negative is depression. There is something that happens to a lot of people, that when you achieve something that a lot of people covet and really want, and you get it, and you also are happy you get it, and then after that there is no other big opportunity that comes, or you don't really see how the impact of going for the fellowship was, you get into depression. So there's a lot of fellows who got into depression because people, just some of the things I had mentioned earlier, people are expecting that they came with money, people are expecting that they were going to get jobs. Some people are not even expected to come back home because people were thinking you're going to stay in the US, get a job, stay there, make our lives better. So depression is also one of those things a lot of fellows go through. Some people also go through depression because after going to a fellowship like that, you expect that you're going to achieve way more and you're going to do more. And if you don't give yourself enough time and you don't achieve it, or you give yourself a lot of time and you don't achieve it, you feel like a failure, you feel like you didn't deserve to go to the fellowship, or you just feel used, and it can be very difficult. The truth is that sometimes there is an indirect impact and there is a direct impact for the fellowship. You don't always get the benefit that you think you'll get. Some people did, some people have done extremely well. We have so many people who have gone far and above even what the fellowship was expecting them to achieve. And of course, some people have even gotten into other more prestigious fellowships and to other programs and continued. Some people have gotten opportunities to continue school, and people got job offers. Like, there's a lot that happens, but some people, majority of the people don't get that. I can tell you it's a few people who actually really benefit directly from the impact of the fellowship. Other people, it's a secondary thing, or just having the fellowship in your resume might help just open those opportunities for you. So it's just important to note that, because there's usually a lot of expectations and it's very easy to get depressed because you don't feel like you benefited anything, or you expected more and you didn't get more. So it's also just good to manage expectations, and I really felt it's important to say this because it affected so many people. For me, I have done so many opportunities outside of the fellowship. I think the fellowship biggest impact for me is that I got to visit another culture and experience it, but I have been disappointed so many times with so many opportunities. I think I felt I could have gotten more from the fellowship, but I did not let it affect me, unlike some other people where it really affected them. I did feel bad, but I have also seen the fellowship open a lot of doors for me, so I wouldn't complain. And I also I would never take for granted the fact that I've met so many amazing people from all over this continent because of the fellowship. So for me, it's more than just the American experience and going to the States and visiting another culture, but also the relationships I've managed to make because of the fellowship. So I guess it's really how you decide to see it. So my closing remarks are, when you're at the fellowship, please remember to network as much as possible. You never know what will work out for you, so try and stand out one way or another. The benefits of participating in the fellowship are not always immediate, so do make sure you give it time to get to know people. Not everybody you meet is a beneficial person to work with or anything like that, but it never hurts to just meet new people, so give that some time. Also, do not underestimate yourself. For me, I think I did underestimate myself to some extent. Your achievements are your achievements, and you're in the fellowship because there is something that you're doing that is right. So always understand that whether or not the fellowship is there, there is something you're doing that impacts your community. So for me, it took a while for that to really sink in, and now I'm very, very confident that I did deserve a place in the fellowship and that I'm actually doing something that benefits the fashion community, because my main application for the fellowship is fashion, and that's what fellows know me for as well. Yeah, so I hope this series has been helpful and beneficial, and it will help fellows that are going now, fellows that will be going in the future. As you apply for opportunities, please do check if it will benefit you. Right now I think everyone does some video like this about applying for various opportunities, so I think sometimes the African ones are fewer. So I just thought this would be a great resource, so I hope you found this whole series helpful. So the next video will come soon. I am not sure when yet. I'm trying to figure out my new schedule, and I will post the video sometime this month. I need to figure out if I want to do it every mid-month or the end of the month or beginning of the month. Yeah, so I guess I will see you later. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for your patience. I know it's been a while since I posted, and I promise you I'm not trying to close down the channel. I just know I need to change a few things on how I do things to also give me time to focus on other projects, as well as create content that will be impactful and effective. So I guess I will see you later, and I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much, and bye.